Welcome back to Wells Beach, guys. It's been about 9 months since I shot that January 13th storm, which destroyed so many homes and seawalls here in Wells Beach. So in this video, we're going to take a look at what these houses have done in order to get ready for another season of storms and flooding. We're going to get after it right now. I want to make sure that I mention a few resources that we have down in the description below. First is the Seller's Success Guide, which will help you prepare your home for sale. And if you have questions about what you should do, what you should repair, remodel, things like that, that guide will answer a lot of your questions. And if you're looking to relocate to Maine, we have a relocation guide. And in that resource, you'll find information about all the different towns, whether they're walkable, how far they are to grocery stores. And of course, you can reach out to us and we'll help you answer your questions as well. We'd love to work with you. Thanks, guys. If you're new to this channel, my name is Michael Patterson and my partner and daughter is Margaret. Our family lived oceanfront on Wells Beach for 10 years. And because of this, we are very familiar with how the beach is changing in Wells. If you are looking to make an investment on Wells Beach, this video will share with you some extremely important information that you absolutely need to be aware of if you want to make a smart investment. First off, I want to say that Wells Beach is a great place to make an investment and to spend quality time with friends and family. We lived on the beach during the school year, and when summer returned, we moved to our other home in Sanford and rented out our beach house. We saw firsthand during the winter how the storms and consistent flooding are getting worse. For many of the newer homes, this isn't a major problem. For the older cottages, however, many of them weren't built to withstand the new climate and the enormous waves that are now hitting the coastlines on a regular basis at high tide like today, which isn't a storm. Since rough seas and higher tides come to the Maine coast every winter now, many owners are forced to lift up their houses or tear it down or simply sell the property to someone else who is willing to put in the capital. Just lifting up the house, however, is not going to protect the property from future storms. You also have to be concerned about the seawall, and not just your own seawall, but your neighbor's seawall as well. And you need to think about where the water is going to go as it comes over the seawall, engulfs the landscaping around the property, and moves onto the street. Erosion around many of these beach houses is happening every year. This means you have to budget for repairs every spring. If you are looking at purchasing a home on Wells Beach and have the cash to fix or rebuild the property, here are 4 things that you need to be aware of. First is location. Some places along the beach get hit harder by winter storms than others. Knowing the areas along Wells Beach that get hit the hardest by storms is crucial. If the beach house you are interested in gets hit hard by winter waves, it is still a good investment for someone, but you need to take extra precautions against winter erosion that I'll talk about in this video. Guys, if you're finding this video informative, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. If you are looking to learn more about living in Maine's seacoast or the inland towns in York County. And Margaret or I are just a phone call away if you have a specific question. Our contact details are in the description down below. Okay, second is the elevation of the home. For some properties, yearly flooding is guaranteed, not just a possibility. If the cottage was built just above the level of the marsh, you need to be careful because if the property has a basement, it could fill up with water and therefore shouldn't be a living space. Also, many of these beautiful properties look brand new, but are actually old and built on posts in areas where the water table is just a few inches below the surface. This means the property has standing water underneath it for most of the year. This can cause moisture to linger underneath the property, and if there isn't enough airflow under the property, the floor joists will rot. If the property is oceanfront, make sure the structure is elevated on pilings several feet above the ground in such a way that water can pass underneath it, or at least has a foundation that will force the water to go around it. Either way, rushing water means erosion. Small cracks allow rushing water to wash out the sand underneath, causing cavities and leading the surface to eventually collapse. Take a look at this house after the January 13th storm. Look at it today. Now, there's nothing wrong with repairing the existing structure, but clearly this owner is not thinking about the future, and before long, the same repairs may need to be done again. Third is landscaping. In residential areas where the marsh regularly floods the streets, some houses end up flooding. Many plants don't like salt water and may need to be replaced on a yearly basis. Most lawns, however, recover without any noticeable problems. On the ocean, dozens of seawalls and wells regularly get overwhelmed by high seas. This means water is coming onto the property with nearly every wave. It occurs so fast that between the houses becomes a fast-moving river that erodes nearly everything in its path. Even entire lawns get ripped out. Now, there are a few ways to deal with this massive volume of water that is coming over the wall. The first is to let the water rush under the property, which is how many of the new homes are constructed today. The problem is that anything in winter storage under the house could end up in the street after the storm. Also, if it's just dirt under the property, this will erode away, and you will need to haul in dirt after the storms in order to secure the pilings that the house is built on. Another tactic is to create a second seawall behind the primary. This is very effective and prevents the water from engulfing the house. The problem is that most of the water is redirected to the neighbor's property, which could mean that they suffer even more damage, which will ultimately cause problems for your property as well. It depends on how bad the winter storms are and the unique characteristics of the property. This is why it is best to work with your neighbors before and after storms, as nearly everyone needs a helping hand during the cleanup. I should also mention that pouring a concrete area behind the wall can also be beneficial. Make sure it is reinforced with rebar or a wire mesh, and also make sure the concrete extends down deep along the property line, as oftentimes erosion begins on the neighboring property. You don't want a neighbor's poor storm planning impacting your wallet, because you can bet they won't be paying for the damage to your property that is caused by their own lack of storm preparation. I'll leave a link down below if you'd like to learn more about how to build a proper seawall. If you're wondering about permitting for some of these defenses, I'm suggesting keep this in mind. If you contact the Maine Department of Environmental Protection, or DEP, to get permission to add sand or to put in a concrete patio, you may not get permission. Don't be surprised if your request is denied, because all along the beach is considered a protected dune. Now, I agree that you don't see any grassy dunes in this video. I'm just relaying to you what the DEP told me when I tried to get permission to add more boulders in front of my seawall. I was denied. That being said, notice all of these new rocks in front of this seawall. Did they get permission? Fourth, and this is really important you do before you buy any property on the beach in Wells, Maine. Guys, talk to the neighbors. If you're not working with a knowledgeable real estate agent who is very familiar with the neighborhood, I strongly advise you to talk to the neighbors. Here's why. If the neighbor isn't selling, they will love telling you stories of what happened to the property and the neighbor's property during the January 13th storm in 2024 that did so much destruction in this area. If several of the neighbors have only owned the property for a couple of years, that should tell you something. This information is gold for anyone who is considering a property purchase who may not have deep pockets for future necessary repairs. Listen to me, guys. Go talk with the neighbors. Your real estate agent can track them down. Many homes along Wells Beach require cleanup and repairs every spring. Not just some years, every year. All right, guys, this is something that I want you to see. The flood level coming up along the road. This is the mile road going down to the beach. Many of you have traveled on this road, hundreds of times like I have. Take a look at how high the flood waters are getting. And this, again, is not a storm. It's just a high tide. And, this is occurring on a regular basis now because the ocean level is coming up. Take a look at that. Look how, there's the surface of the road, right? And you can see that the water level, a few more inches, and this water is going to come across the road, which occurs now on a regular basis. Okay, all this being said, I strongly believe that buying properties along Wells Beach is still a very good investment. It just requires more careful consideration than it did 20 years ago. Ongoing reconstruction is a fact of life for many of these houses, but there is no denying that most of these property values are still going up. All right, I hope you found that video informative. If you did, please give it a like and subscribe to the channel if you want to be the first to know when we post another video. And if you want to learn more about what it's like to live in southern Maine, watch this next video.